Welcome to the Bullseye podcast, where we talk with dentists about a variety of topics. And today we are talking to Dr. Michael DeSanti out of Albany, New York. His business partner, Amy Linden, is not able to be on the call with us today, but we are going to be talking about their practice and specifically reviews. Their account manager came to me one day and said, "You would not believe the reviews that these guys are getting. Do you mind if I ask them to be on your podcast?" I said, "Absolutely, ask." He asked you. Then I went back and read some of the reviews, and I'm like, holy moly, no wonder he wanted us to do this podcast. So welcome, Dr. DeSanti.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what I thought I would do is I printed out some of the reviews on your site, and this is going to make you blush, I think. But I'm just going to go over some of the reviews that prompted us to do this. Somebody a month ago said, we have been patients at this practice for over 30 years and have received consistently excellent care and service from every person we've interacted with, both in the chair and at the front desk. 2 months ago, the entire staff is highly professional, personable, helpful, and deserves all 5 of the above stars, 100% from us. A few months ago, from the front desk, Alicia, to the highly trained hygienist, Elena, a visit to DeSanti Family Dentistry is a wonderful way to take care of your oral health and overall heart health. She goes on and on. Different one, this office makes the patient the priority. I'm grateful for this practice. Another one, DeSanti Family Dentistry is the best all capital experience I've ever had with any dentist ever. They're all around awesome. I'm finally in the right hands. Another one, best family dentistry I've ever been to. I recently moved into the area. I'm so happy to have found them. They're absolutely wonderful. Dr. Mike DeSanti is skilled. A number of wonderful adjectives that I would never think of changing. I would recommend him to anyone, anytime. Dr. DeSanti is super talented. His Novocaine shots are practically pain-free. Simple cosmetic work is amazing with Dr. Amy Linden. I love this one. I left my previous dentist after 31 years. I had no real complaints other than the staff turnover rate. I now realize what I had been missing after going to DeSanti Family Dentistry, and that is my dog whining in the background. Stitch is apparently extremely impressed with these reviews. She's wondering why she doesn't get reviews.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Dr. Linden and her assistant are the best. No pain, great gain, brilliant smile. I had a cleaning today, and the technician working with me was nothing short of spectacular. I've been going to Dr. DeSanti since I moved to Albany 20 years ago. Different one. Both doctors are amazing. I trust them completely. They go above and beyond. I am always treated like family. Happy I decided to switch offices. The best dentist in the capital region. Highly recommend. Lots of people saying 20 years, 30 years. They're like family to me. Classy bunch. Dental care is exceptional. I mean, I am literally picking from about 100 different reviews where I just highlighted some. The best dentist and hygienist, Erica, I've ever been to. Finding a dentist that helps you feel welcome, decreases your anxiety, has friendly staff, and provides excellent treatment. On and on. So for dentists listening out there who would love to have 2 or 3, much less 100 reviews like that, what do you tell them?
So in our situation, I'm a second generation dentist. I was fortunate. I got to practice with my dad for 13 years before he retired 8 years ago. And that's when Dr. Linden joined me. And at that point, as I was progressing through my career, I realized, I started going in a very kind of comprehensive fashion with new patients and treatment planning. And I felt it was just really important to make sure that the patients knew what they were getting, because patient expectation was everything. So we spent several years really honing a new patient experience from start to finish, from the first phone call, the script on the first phone call, to the time they came in. They knew, my treatment coordinator, Jerry, is fantastic, and she handles every phone call, every email. And over the years, the process is, there's phone calls involved. There's a lot of it's online now. You can do all your paperwork online, so it's very easy.
I understand you have an amazing website. Who does that for you?
Oh, that might be you guys. That might be Bullseye Media.
Shameless plug. I'm sorry.
Right. When it's worth it, it's worth it. It's great. You guys are the best. So But yeah, so in this new patient experience, it allowed us to really carve out a niche to allow patients to set the expectations for patients, so they know. Both from the phone call, they would get a packet in the mail saying, this is what we're going to do. There was never any point that they would come in not knowing what was going to happen. So when we did that, we found it's very easy to meet those expectations or exceed them. And it doesn't matter if you're in dentistry or you're at Blaze Pizza getting your pizza. If it meets your expectation or exceeds it, you're happy. That's really what it comes down to. And if you're a patient who thinks that you're going in to get one thing done and something completely different is done, that's where dissatisfaction comes from, and that's where 2 and 3 star reviews come from. So yeah, it was pretty organic, to be honest with you. And we also we'll try every morning we do morning huddles. So we go through every single patient in the schedule. It will take 15 minutes, and if Mrs. Smith's husband just passed away, we let everybody know that, and everybody can, when they comes in, the doctors know, it might be somebody celebrating an anniversary or a birthday. Everybody knows what's going on, and it just creates a nice personal experience for the patients.
Wow, that is a great practice. Yeah. I love that. I went to a dentist for years. I don't go to him anymore. Yeah. I come in and he asked me what was going on, and I was training for a marathon. And I mentioned to him, I've been training for this marathon I've been running. I ran it. And the next time I came in, he said, how was that? I told him, I said, it was something I wanted to do once and I did it. I won't ever do it again. Or at least I'll run, but probably not a marathon. So I came in later and he asked me again about the running. And I said, I mentioned that I'm doing other things. I do kickboxing and yoga and a number of other things, but the running was really hard on my hips and I gave it up. I am not kidding you. About 3, 4, 5 years later, I had to say, Dr. So-and-so, I don't run anymore. I haven't run in 5 years. I ran one marathon and I've told you about 16 times now that, so please don't ask me about running. Right. It wasn't, he was, just trying to be kind, but clearly not. And by the way, my ex-wife and both of my kids would go. So we'd always ask about them. Always very, very nice. How are the kiddos? Right. But it was just. It's interesting that you mentioned, you're paying attention and you let the staff know Mrs. Smith's husband passed away. Like let's be sure we recognize that. So I think that's wonderful. So what is your process for asking for reviews? And let me set that up. We tell our clients all the time that they need to get reviews for a number of reasons. And any of our clients listen to this are going to be like, Ernie, you're a broken record, shut up. But Google looks for fresh, original content. Right. So there are a couple ways you can do that. You can write a blog every month. You can add new, fresh content to your site, and you need to be doing that so that you continue to be on Google's radar. But one of the ways you can do that is you can ask people for reviews, and Google considers their review fresh, original content. So these hundreds of amazing reviews, just a sample of which I read, are all new for you. So not only is it gives you that benefit, but obviously if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a new dentist, and someone says, hey, I've heard Dr. DeSanti's good, Dr. Linden's good, you should go try them out, and they go to the website and they see these kind of reviews, it's a home run. Pushback that I get very, very frequently is, well, once I had somebody leave a really nasty review and now I don't do it anymore. Or the process is just cumbersome. My front desk is too busy to do that. So those are some of the pushbacks I get. You clearly have cracked that code because not only are these wonderful, but you've got a lot of them. So tell us, what is the process that you use for asking for reviews?
So it's funny that you mentioned that because I grew up, this practice is in 2.5 years, this practice is going to be 50 years old from when my dad started it. So I grew up in the era of, if you were advertising in dentistry, it was a little shameful. It was kind of, people did not love the look of that. If you were on the side of a bus, if you were on a billboard, anything at all. And so I grew up in that, and my dad was one of those firm believers. So it was, after he retired and after we started working together with Bullseye, I fully understand the importance of the reviews, but from my perspective, just and personal comfort level, I'm not a big fan of the doctors directly asking the patients. And everybody has their own. I mean, my colleagues, my friends, everybody, we talk about this all the time. And some are very comfortable, some are not comfortable. And I don't think that that's necessarily the formula, but there has to be a system where it is taken care of. So how we do it is, Dr. Linden and I don't ask the patients directly. We really don't. However, when we leave the room, if the patient remotely shows appreciation, satisfaction, anything, the dental assistants will say, that's great to hear. We're thrilled that you feel that way. It'd go a long way if maybe, if you went online and said something. The front desk will do the same thing. If the patients come up, if we do a nice cosmetic case and the patient's very happy and they're just beaming, smiling up front, they'll say the same. They'll say the same thing. One thing I will say that made my life a lot easier was once we started working with Bullseye, was that you guys offer when the patient leaves the appointment, they automatically an hour later get their email saying, "Hey, thanks so much for coming in. Would you mind taking a moment and just reviewing?" And it's something as simple as they can just put a number of stars, or they can leave a nice testimonial. And I can't lie and say we're doing something out of this world fantastic from the perspective of eliciting these responses. I think this just comes down to our philosophy and our vision on how we treat patients. Those really kind testimonials come through. But I have to say, it's also very nice to see them when they come through, because I get my daily email report when they come through, and it's wonderful. I mean, we see them come through, and whenever, you mentioned a couple of my team members' names, whenever they come through, I'll always shoot somebody the towel, take a screenshot with my phone and text them that night. Then the next morning we bring it up at the meeting, because it's nice in our huddle to hear that in front of everybody that so and so did a great job doing something and gets pointed out for it. So it's very nice.
Yeah. We had the cobbler's shoes syndrome going on for a while, where I'm out there preaching left and right about the importance of reviews. And one day I was looking at our own Google My Business, and I was like, holy moly, we don't have enough reviews. And so I just started asking people, and you're right. It is so terrific to have somebody say nice things about your team. And I do the same thing. I let everybody know. But it does. It's a really nice feeling. You mentioned that we automated the process through your practice management system. We started doing that almost a year ago. It was the beginning of 2022, encouraging our clients to automate that process. We did this little analysis, and I believe it was within 60 days, the average was 63% more reviews. Oh, yeah. We had one review of a client of ours, I think they're in Lubbock, Texas, maybe, if memory serves, had 931% more reviews after 60 days, right? And it makes perfect sense, right? Because if I'm working the front desk and I'm welcoming people in, I'm trying to close people out, schedule their next appointment, answer their questions about insurance, take their payment, schedule their next appointment, and I'm also supposed to ask them for a review, but automating that process certainly can make a difference. So glad you're doing that. Well, I was going to ask you, the next question on my list to ask you was the number of volumes has picked up in the last year. What do you attribute that to? We may have just covered that. Is that part of it?
I do think that is part of it, because we used to use the system that Bullseye used to use was the little personalized business cards, and they were great, but people didn't seem to take them as much. So when this came about, it was a perfect way to implement it. This is our second full fiscal year of being now fee for service for our business. And I think we've been able to kind of cultivate a patient culture that the people that are here really want to be here. They're not here because, my filling is $30 less than the guy down the street. So there's really a sense and a culture of appreciation and value for what's going on. So, and I think that comes through. And those patients, as far as referrals, they're the ones, they may say to their neighbor when their neighbor says, we need to just move to the area. We need a dentist. They'll mention our name, but it's a very specific culture that they're describing to that patient. And it may not fit every patient. I mean, a lot of people are just shopping around. They want the cheapest crown. They want this, they want that. But for those that it clicks with, it really clicks. And so when those patients come in and they've spoken to my treatment coordinator on the phone 2 or 3 times already, and they've received a mailing from her and another email from her, they have a friend at the front desk, and they all walk in, they know Jerry's name, they know, so it's nice. So that part, I think it kind of keeps that going along for us, which has been good.
Yeah. I was going to tell you 2 quick stories. One is I was at my dentist a couple months ago, and I was walking towards the checkout line, and Carolyn, who works the first desk, was just beaming. And I thought, man, she just must have won the lottery. Or, I said, well, you look really happy today. She said, oh, I am. And I said, well, good. And I checked out and I opened the door, and my daughter was standing there. My daughter had booked it. She's 19 years old. So, she drives, and she had booked an appointment. I had no idea that her appointment was right after mine. Carolyn knew. She recognized my daughter, and I guess they must have had a conversation. And Zoe said, your dad's here. She said, what? So Carolyn knew that when I opened the door, I was going to be shocked that my daughter was there. And she was beaming, and people were kind of looking around the corner, and they all started clapping. What an experience, right? Like, Carolyn created an experience for me that was so memorable. And it sounds like Jerry does that for you on your end. And the other story I'm going to tell you real quick, as you mentioned about fee for service and the people looking for, $30. I was meeting a friend for lunch the other day. And by the way, he has an economics degree from an Ivy League school and is a banker. We moved lunch from 11:30 to 12:30 to finally 1. And I said, hey, what's up? And he said, I had a 9:30 dentist appointment. And I said, oh, did that back up your day? And he goes, no, I just left there. And I go, what in the world procedure did you have done that you had a 9:30 appointment and you had to book, to 1? And he goes, oh, I just got like a cleaning, and they had to do like a filling. And I go, what in the world? He goes, I go to this super cheap place. They're unorganized. He goes, but it's cheap. And I go, do the math on your time.
Right.
You just wasted half a day. Do the math on your time, and was it really worth whatever amount of that you saved?
Right.
So here's another what's the word, obstacle that I hear from people when I tell them about the Portland reviews. They say, look, we had a bad review once. We cut that out. We're scared to death of a bad review. What would you say to those doctors?
I think it's kind of no risk, no reward, to be honest with you. I don't think you can attribute. You cannot make everybody. And I stress to my team all the time in our quarterly meetings, I'll say, you know what, no matter what, we could be doing free dentistry, and we're still going to have 5% of our patient population who would not be happy about something. Like, it does not make everyone happy. It doesn't matter. You can give free airline tickets, and somebody's still going to complain that the blanket's not cushy enough. So I think it's more of, we've been very fortunate, and once again, we really don't get too many low reviews. And the two to this day, because my daughters, who are 12 and 15, have been trolling my website and reviews for many years now. And I'll never forget when one of my little one was probably 7 or 8. She says, you have 2 1-star reviews on there, Dad. And it to this day, it pains my heart. Like, to hear. But I know personally, just because that kind of stuff bothers me, just being a detail-oriented person. They were both collection issues. Patients that we had done, and we had nice relationships with those 2 patients. There was nothing major, but they didn't want to pay their bill, basically. And we go as long as we can, and we did everything we could, but it just did not work out. And unfortunately, we had to separate. And when we did have to separate, we within 30 seconds of my financial coordinator getting off the phone with one of them, there was this scathing review, a 1-star review from an avatar. It was not it was not a name. Like, that's always the thing. And the nice thing about this is all of our reviews, it's always the patient's first, and most of the time first and last names. I mean, they don't hide from it, which is really nice. It's not anonymous. And so in both of those situations, we did try to just reach out, not to try to get them to take them down, because it's not worth trying to look like that, but just to say, hey, is there anything else we can do to help here? And that was that. But that I would just say to anybody who gets spooked by that, perhaps if you're getting an overabundance of poor reviews, it could simply be maybe we have to look a little more inside our own systems and how we're approaching things philosophically. What is our mission statement and how are we living it? And what can we do better?
Yeah. I really appreciate that perspective. It's a good one. And I will say there is research that people look for bad reviews. Yep. And I'll give you a great example. I'm a big fan of Airbnb. I kind of haven't stayed in a hotel in a long time. I just like the Airbnb experience. And I can look at reviews and I don't go, I don't look at some of the good ones, but I always go to bad ones, right? I immediately want to know, is a bad review where someone says, I didn't like the thread count on the bed and the water wasn't ice cold, right? I don't care, whatever. If they say there were roaches all over the place, I care, right? So it's, and then the other thing is how the owner responds. If the owner responds, look, you're a jerk and I never wish you to come here anyway. If the owner says, gosh, I'll take a look at the thread counts on those sheets and make sure the water's cold next time. Thank you for that feedback. I'm like, oh, there's a high maintenance person in a response. And I will say, again, everybody who might be listening about reviews, you got to do them. Like you said, having a lot of reviews with a bad one in there is better than having few. But if you respond, it's got to be in a HIPAA compliant way. I live in Dallas. There's a doctor here in Dallas who was fined $10,000 because actually maybe been more than that. Got had a client leave or a patient leave a bad review, and he went after him. And you can't talk about treatment. You can't even say their name.
No. Right. And that's from our end. That was one of the reasons I fell in love with Bullseye Media from day one. Is that when we started implementing reviews, even when we were using the little paper cards and everything we did, you guys handled it immediately. And I remember at that time, my original account manager, that's how I knew I was getting value out of your company, because that one review came in, and I'm not even kidding you. 45 minutes later, I had an email from Joe saying, "Hey, Dr. D, this thing just came across. Let me work this," and they took care of it. You guys always take care of that, and it has to be a professional response, but you can't even acknowledge the fact that person's your patient. So it's a so while some people may find that dissatisfying if they're only looking for if they're only looking for a little conflict, maybe it's necessary, and it's very, very, very important in the review game, so to say. Your response is a professional, because at the same time there's a professional license on the line, and so in many states, New York, where we are here included, take the ethics side of it very, very seriously. Yeah. Agreed.
The next question I was going to ask you, I think you've already answered. I was going to say, how do you incorporate positive or negative reviews that you get back into your practice? But I think you said if it's positive, you tell, not only you screenshot the person, you tell the whole team the next day. And I assume if it's negative, same thing, let everybody know. And, hey, we can't please everybody type thing.
It was funny. We had, of all the reviews that we have on Google, and it's, once again, as my daughter keeps me up to tab on my percentages, we had a random 4-star review 2 weeks ago, and I got this review, and I saw it, and you think to yourself, a 4-star review, but it's the only 4-star review we've ever had. That's it. We've never had a 4-star review. They're either 5s, or I've had 2 1-star reviews. That's it. Yeah. And so it kind of got me. So I said, this was at 6:30 on a Thursday night. And I said I texted my associate, Dr. Linden, and because I wasn't at the office at the time, and my front office team, and then the hygienist who was working with the patient. I said, hey, this is probably nothing, but just on the off chance, anything happened differently, because that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to think about on a daily basis. And they all said no, it was a perfect appointment. And one of my team members knows this person personally outside of the office for many years before she was a patient. And she said, no, she's just a little quirky, and that's just her. So she gave her a 4-star. And I said, hey, perfect, that's fine. But when it's something different, we just try to follow up with it.
It's like a professor who refuses to give an A+, right? Like an A is what you're going to get. And to them, an A- and a B+ is perfectly good work. And to the perfectionist student, that's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one last question and then we'll wrap this up. And that is, do you have any advice for your peers related to this review game?
I think you just have to be true to yourself. I think depending on what your practice philosophy is and what your vision for your practice is, and not everybody's willing to put that kind of time and effort in, but if you have a vision for your practice and you try to live it out in a mission every single day about how you treat patients, a lot of places say, and you hear it everywhere you go, we treat you like family. You go to your bank, we treat you like family. Well, your family wouldn't be the first one to slap a $50 fee on your checking account if you drop below, a certain amount of money. And so we really do try to strive to avoid those things and we talk about this in our meetings, about if you went to your doctor's office for an annual physical, what are the things that you can't stand there? Whether it's waiting room times, whatever it might be, the impersonal nature of the front desk, all those things. And we really try to fix those in our practice, and we try to go that way. And so that's the kind of the vision that we strive to do every day. And by doing that, we've created this experience that has just created a very welcoming environment for patients. And I think it's created a system that we're very fortunate to get the reviews that we get, but I think they are very, very organic in nature. So I have good friends of mine who, while they may not put that much thought into it, they're excellent clinicians. They're everything, and they will go and they'll be a little more proactive getting their reviews. And I don't think there's one way is worse than the other. I think everything, whatever works. What you don't want to do is just have a million 1- and 2-star reviews. As you pointed out. I think the goal is get 1% better every day. You might start out, because if you're new to using it, you might start out not doing that well, but every day you just gotta get 1% better, and eventually your ratings come up, and then Google's very happy, and so is earning.
That's true. That is exactly right. I'm glad that's important to you, that I'm happy. Well, hey, I appreciate this very much. I know Dr. Linden had a family situation and wasn't able to make our podcast, but please share this with her as well. Congratulations to you guys on building a practice that clearly is serving people. As one of those quotes the quotes that I read, I was so impressed with. Somebody said about how going to the dentist gives them anxiety, but not at your practice. Like that's a cool thing to hear.
Makes you feel good.
Pardon me?
It makes you feel good.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for the great work that you do. Thank you for being our client, and thank you for taking time to help other doctors understand how they might copy what you've done in terms of these fantastic reviews.
Thanks, Ernie. I appreciate the time. This is great.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thanks.